In a town where everyone knew everyone, the killer wasn't a stranger. For months, he hid in plain sight, beneath church picnics, behind handyman smiles, while an entire community looked the other way. But on one storm-soaked night, the mask cracked. Police surrounded a house with boarded-up windows. Beneath it, they found a hidden tunnel, stocked with food and trophies from his victims, proof that Mayberry had been sheltering its darkest secret. When he finally emerged, clutching a child's toy as a chilling trophy, the town realized it wasn't just one man's crime, it was their silence that made it possible. This is Murder in Mayberry, the town that hid a killer. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Twisted Case Files. The first thing you notice about Mayberry is how quiet it is. Porch swings creak lazily. The post office clock still chimes on the hour. On Sunday mornings, the church bells echo down streets lined with maples. Outsiders think of Mayberry as a living postcard, a place where the American dream never died. But those who grew up here whisper about grudges that span generations, about strange disappearances, about the man who fixed your roof but never quite looked you in the eye. In Mayberry, everyone knows your name, and sometimes that's exactly how they know how to hurt you. We used to leave our doors unlocked. You could walk into the diner, leave your purse on the counter, and no one would touch it. We thought evil was something that happened somewhere else. Not here. Mayberry's innocence was its armor and its blindfold. Her name was Evelyn Price. She taught at Mayberry Elementary for 23 years. She played the organ at St. Luke's Church. She delivered pies to sick neighbors and volunteered at the library. She was the heartbeat of Mayberry, the woman who believed in the goodness of people. Miss Price was strict, but she cared. She used to buy us supplies with her own money. She told me once, "Kindness is a choice, even when it's hard." His name was Walter Walt Haskins, the town handyman, a war veteran, always ready with a smile, the kind of man who changed a tire for free and refused to charge widows for his work. To Mayberry, he was the salt of the earth. If you needed something fixed, you called Walt. He'd show up before you finished asking. He'd wave, tip his cap, go about his work. We all trusted him. That trust would become his shield. Beneath the postcard surface, the town kept its secrets. Old grudges, unsolved crimes, disappearances that faded from memory. People looked the other way, because looking too closely meant tearing down the myth of Mayberry. Every town has skeletons. But here, we built a museum around ours and called it Nostalgia. On a rain-slick morning in October, a call came into the sheriff's department that would end Mayberry's innocence. In a barn at the outskirts of town, under a mound of hay, lay the body of the woman everyone trusted. I'd been on the force 22 years. I thought I'd seen it all, but that morning when we pulled back the hay, I'll never forget it. I still hear it in my sleep. Her injuries were so brutal the sheriff's voice cracked when he called it in. For decades, Mayberry would remember the sound of that radio transmission. I thought I knew what evil looked like. I didn't, not until that day. The murder was not just an act of violence. It was a mirror, held up to Mayberry, reflecting everything it wanted to hide. The postcard had been ripped. The picture-perfect town had a tear running right through its heart. And the killer was still among them. Within hours, the crime scene at the edge of town was swarming. Detectives from the state capitol arrived expecting a straightforward case. What they found was a labyrinth of missing evidence, half-remembered alibis, and neighbors who swore they'd seen nothing, even when they had. We thought it was going to be easy. Small town, everybody knows each other, someone will talk. But nobody talked. It was like hitting a wall of silence. The more the detectives dug, the more the town seemed to close ranks. Rumors spread. Tips dried up, and behind every locked door was a story no one wanted to tell. 3 pieces of evidence stood out, a distinctive boot print matching a size almost no one in town wore, a receipt for rope purchased from the hardware store, and a child's toy, out of place, tucked under the hay as if hidden deliberately. He bought rope all the time, but so did everybody else. We're a farming town. Nothing unusual about it. Sometimes forgiveness can blind us. We wanted to believe the best about each other, even when we shouldn't. He wasn't just another face in the crowd. He was woven into the town's fabric, and that fabric wrapped him like a cloak. Behind the scenes, a name kept surfacing. A man everyone trusted, everyone had an excuse for. A man whose boots matched the print at the barn. When his name first came up, I laughed. Said no way, but the evidence, it kept pointing back. Yet when detectives approached, doors slammed. Neighbors refused to sign statements. Someone even tipped him off. It felt like the whole town was protecting him. We'd knock, and people would suddenly forget what they saw. Or they'd say he's a good man, he wouldn't hurt a soul. But we knew they were lying. The case was no longer just about a murder. It was about a community's complicity, a conspiracy of silence that made it possible. And beneath the quiet streets of Mayberry ran something far older than anyone suspected, a hidden artery of escape. As detectives closed in, Mayberry grew tense. Friendships frayed, whispered prayers filled the night. Somewhere, a man the town once trusted was planning his next move. And soon, their silence would cost them everything. Weeks turned into months. The killer was still out there. But the net was tightening. Each new piece of evidence pointed toward the same man. And each new witness who came forward left detectives with a single question. Why was Mayberry protecting him? A search warrant on a storage shed linked to Walt uncovered trophies, objects belonging to Evelyn and other unsolved cases. Enough to shatter the myth of his innocence. But still, the town hesitated. We thought, this is it. This will break it wide open. Instead, people started closing their blinds. We'd park an unmarked car outside his house, and an hour later he'd be gone. Someone was warning him. Fear hung over Mayberry like a storm cloud. Friends stopped speaking. The diner lost its customers. The church bell rang hollow. And still, no one would say what they knew. You could feel it. This wasn't just about a murder. It was about a community that had built its identity on being good. And admitting what was happening meant admitting that the town itself had failed. Then detectives stumbled onto something strange. A set of forgotten blueprints showing storm drains and tunnels built in the 1800s. One of the main access points, directly beneath Walt's home. We realized how he was staying one step ahead. He wasn't disappearing into thin air. He was slipping under our feet. The hunt moved underground. Officers combed the tunnels, listening for echoes, finding scraps of food, even footprints in the mud. Every clue a reminder. The man they once called a friend was living like a ghost beneath their town. It's one thing to catch a killer. It's another to catch your neighbor. To look into the eyes of someone you've shared meals with and see what you've been ignoring. Mayberry was a powder keg. Detectives had proof. The town had secrets. And beneath the quiet streets, a man was planning his escape. Soon, storm and reckoning would collide on a single night that would tear the mask off forever. On a storm-soaked night in March, the mask finally cracked. The man the town once called its helper had vanished below ground for weeks, slipping in and out through tunnels built before anyone alive could remember. Food left at hidden entrances, doors unlocked for him by friends. But the net had closed, and there was nowhere left to run. The storm hid their approach. Under cover of darkness, state police and deputies surrounded the small frame house at 14 Sycamore Street. Beneath their boots, they knew. A labyrinth of brick and sewage ran like veins, Walt's private escape route. We didn't know if he was inside or under our feet. But we knew this was it. We couldn't let him vanish again. Thermal imaging shot of the house. A faint red glow in the basement. Officers exchanged a glance. Beneath the house, they found it. A tunnel sealed off since the 1800s, stocked with canned food, blankets, and trophies from his victims. Proof at last of the town's darkest secret. When we saw that tunnel, it was like something out of a nightmare. All this time, he'd been right under us. And then he emerged. The handyman, the neighbor, the man they'd trusted. Clutching a child's toy as a chilling trophy. His face unreadable. The rain plastered his hair to his forehead, but the smile never left his lips. He just stood there, looking at all of us, like we were the ones on trial. Officers shout commands. Dogs bark. He drops the bag but holds the toy until an officer takes it from his hands. Cuffs click. For a heartbeat, the only sound is the rain. It wasn't just one man's crime. It was a conspiracy of silence. For months, Mayberry had been feeding and hiding its darkest sun, even as he planned his next move. On that night, the facade collapsed. You could see it in their faces. Shock, shame, relief. It was like the whole town exhaled and saw itself for the first time. The storm passed. The streets emptied, but Mayberry would never be the same. The killer was caught, and the town's innocence with him. When dawn broke over Mayberry, the world knew. The handyman who fixed everyone's problems had become the town's darkest nightmare. But his arrest was only the beginning of a reckoning that would tear the town apart. In the months that followed, the trial became a national spectacle. Evidence of trophies taken from victims. Testimony from neighbors who had left food at tunnel entrances. Details of how he'd evaded capture under their very feet. We weren't just prosecuting a man. We were prosecuting a story the town had told itself. The idea that this could never happen here. The verdict was swift. Guilty on all counts. Life without parole. But the sentence fell on more than one man. It fell on an entire community. People stopped talking to each other. Some left town. Others stayed but never went back to church. It was like someone had died. And in a way, something had. Families turned on each other. Friendships ended. The town's name became synonymous with betrayal. We still tell her story. She believed in kindness. She believed in us. We let her down. But maybe, By telling the truth, we can start to make it right. Slowly, painfully, Mayberry began to rebuild. But the shadow of that storm-soaked night never fully lifted. Mayberry will never be the same. A town once famous for its charm now lives under a shadow of shame. A reminder that evil can thrive anywhere, even where everyone knows your name. And sometimes, the most dangerous monsters aren't the strangers who pass through. They're the people we've already welcomed home. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, share with friends, and also subscribe.